Good afternoon, and welcome to the Wednesday afternoon conference call with Trusts Unlimited. This is Jim George speaking. I'm the non-attorney spokesman and facilitator for Trusts Unlimited, and I'd like to thank all of you for taking the time to listen to this call, particularly those of you calling in for the first time and those that will be listening to the replay over the next 24 to 48 hours. Today is June 29th. Aside from being my wife's birthday, it's a very important day, and I'll be getting into what I mean by that in just a moment. I had scheduled a regular call for today, inclusive of the Q&A. Got on the computer last night to start my research. I make a lot of phone calls. I research a lot of things. And unfortunately, I'm having a problem with my computer. It keeps freezing up. It's doing it right now. I'm worried that I'm not going to be able to get through this call. I got my IT guy coming over later this afternoon. Again, I hope I can get through this call. Even though I utilize the computer to make a living, I'm an analog guy in a digital world, so I'm just not good at this. I've had this computer for a while. And they say that they have a very short lifespan. So we'll see what happens. But all I care about at this point is getting through this call, and I'll do my best to do so. So let's go ahead and talk about where we stand with regard to the reinstitution of the Iraqi Dinar, because that's really the catalyst for everything that we're concerned about. First, by way of disclaimer, Trusts Unlimited is not the purveyor of the dinar and these other currencies. We're not advocating either the sale or purchase of these currencies, but as rather substantial currency holders ourselves, we're sharing with you the information we think relevant and how you can protect this wealth once the reinstitution and revaluation of the dinar and these other currencies does occur. So let's start and talk a little bit about the Iraqi government. First, we know there's a caretaker government in place. Kazemi is the prime minister, Salih is the president of the republic, and al-Habussi is the speaker of the House. Now, given our other options, this really is the dream team. These are the right people that we would need, even if it's only a caretaker government. Our concern is, how can we proceed with the caretaker government? What's going on? Well, on the negative side, we have the parliament that's, in my opinion, in complete disarray. I've discussed the back and forth between the Sadrists, the coalition framework, and then the newly formed tripartite coalition. It's just a dysfunctional body, a lot of chest pounding, not a lot going on there. Also, we have the finance minister who issued a statement saying that the reinstitution of the dinar, or at the very least the change in the rate, is going to be incremental over 2022. Of course, in my view, both the finance minister and the finance committee that was established by the parliament to oversee CBI operations, neither the minister nor that group has really any control over the CBI. On the plus side, we have the Supreme Judicial Council that released a statement that said that the caretaker government, and I'm quoting here, must keep the country running, utilizing whatever powers necessary. Now, this is important. They didn't say whatever powers specifically delegated to the caretaker committee, to the caretaker government, whatever powers are necessary. So in my view, what this means is the court realizes that the extra-constitutional dystopian situation with the parliament is the problem, and the caretaker government cannot be hamstrung by that. They need an adult in the room to get some things done, and a lot of things need to get done aside from the formation of the government, formal passage of the 2022 budget, even certain amendments to the Constitution with regard to voting rights, and then, of course, monetary reforms, and ultimately the change in the exchange rate. The other plus here, of course, as I've mentioned, is the CBI itself. The CBI is an independent agency. It's continuing to operate independently, and basically proceeding with the monetary reforms and kind of thumbing its nose at the Minister of Finance and the antics of the Parliament. Now, what is the CBI doing right now? Well, they are increasing their reserves. I'm referring to the U.S. dollar, euros, gold. Add to that their own substantial natural resources. Now, we know that they're got to hit, and we all do at some point, Basel III compliance, which is defined as the natural resources or known natural resources in a given country and their ability to bring them to market. And that's exactly what they're proceeding with. Now, why do they need to hold substantial reserve currencies? It's because their currency is in flux, and they need to be able to show that they have a method of running the government, of financing the government up until they complete the monetary reforms. Now, there's a couple of things they are doing aside from backing their currency with their reserves and, of course, the gold, silver, other precious and industrial metals. They continue to, I like to use the term, collect the 3 zeros rather than just eliminate the 3 zeros. One of the issues people have raised is that they can't reinstitute their currency because the money supply is too large. And my response to that is the way to reduce a money supply in any economy, and of course, money supply relative to goods and services produced is what the equation is to come to what the inflation rate is. So by collecting the zeros and eliminating the 3-0 provisional currency, they are substantially reducing the money supply. A $25,000 dinar note becomes a 25 dinar note. So that's an incredible reduction in the money supply. There are a couple of things countries can do that work for or against their people in terms of inflation. As an example, the United States continues to print money. That's hyperinflationary. Why are they doing it? Well, there's a lot of reasons. One of the reasons is what they refer to as monetizing the debt. We're $30 trillion in debt. So the way to make $30 trillion become less is to print a lot more money. The money's worth less, but they have the dollars they need to start paying down the deficit. So they're more concerned about, their books than the kitchen table situation. All you have to do is go to the grocery store and look at the price of items to see we're in an inflationary spiral. The federal government cooks the books. They say we're at 8.6%. As a general rule, you need to double that. We're more like 16 or 70% real inflation, as opposed to, say, Russia, which is producing more oil, purchased more gold, and actually the ruble is probably in much better shape than the U.S. dollar, but that's the situation that exists. Another issue with the CBI that's important, and this could be the linchpin to what's going to happen, is that they are working directly with a group called the Egmont Group. That's EGMOND Group. Now, who's the Egmont Group? This is an international NGO. They specialize in tracking money laundering and terrorist financing. Now, why would the CBI enter into a formal contract and arrangement with the Egmont Group? The only thing that makes sense is that the CBI is planning to reinstitute their currency, substantially increasing the value of the dinar, making it really a currency that would be much more easily and desirable in terms of money laundering and terrorist financing. So it seems that the CBI is doing what? They're collecting provisional 3-0 currencies. The CBI is increasing their reserves in terms of USD, the euro, and which, of course, both of which are declining in value, but substantially increasing their gold earnings. The CBI is ignoring the statements coming out of the Parliament and out of even the cabinet heads of the caretaker government, and the CBI has entered into a formal arrangement with the Egmont Group to monitor money laundering and terrorist financing. So if you look at the whole picture, they're moving inextricably to the reinstitution of their currency. Now, today is, again, June 29th. I said that's an important date. I've discussed this ad nauseum, but I think it's worth repeating. This means we've come to the end of a quarter. It means the optimum time for the reinstitution of the currency for those of us that hold the dinar and these other currencies is the first 6 weeks of each quarter. Why? Because if the reinstitution and revaluation were to occur any time from July 1st to August 15th, that means we have 6 to 8 weeks to hold the currency if it comes out of the float to allow it to appreciate. And it means we have 6 to 8 weeks to compel the IRS to give us written confirmation of how this revaluation is to be taxed, whether the currency is in trust or out of a trust. Now, the code as we read it, and again, we're going to rely on our private letter ruling from the IRS once the currency reinstitutes. But the code as we read it is that the currency will be treated and taxed as cap gain outside of a trust and tax deferred within a trust pursuant to Section 643A and B of the Internal Revenue Code. Lastly, for over a decade, we've been marketing this trust to those of us that hold currencies, dinar and other currencies. But over the last couple of years, it's become increasingly important that individuals establish a family asset protection trust package to protect them from the intrusion of our own government. These trusts are going to provide privacy for you. They're going to guarantee you due process, and they're going to provide substantial tax and investment advantages. This is important because the government right now, in my opinion, is exceeding its authority in a number of ways. It's becoming increasingly more of a surveillance government. They're talking about 80,000, which is what they wanted. They haven't gotten it this far. New tax agents, what are they going to do? They're going to give us a hard time. That's another reason why we don't want this revaluation at the end of a quarter with the tax due in a couple of weeks for the reasons that I've stated. Now, sometimes individuals say that we have the safe harbor rule, which simply put means if there is an occurrence very late in a quarter, we can fall back on the earnings of that quarter in the previous year to avoid any penalty on any unpaid tax. But this isn't a normal situation, and this bunch of kleptocrats in Washington are not individuals I would trust to do the right thing with regard to the windfall profit from this. So, for example, if an individual earned $17,500 in the second quarter of last year, the revaluation were to occur today, they were not able to pay a tax which was not even ascertained by July 15th. And in the second quarter, because of the revaluation, they had $11 million profit from an exchange as opposed to $17,500 of W-2 earned income. I don't see how the government's I don't trust the government to allow the safe harbor rule to apply in that circumstance. So there's no way this thing's going to reinstitute and revalue before July 1st. But again, our optimum window, the sweet spot, is going to be the first 6 weeks of any quarter. And things are looking good because despite all of the chaos in Iraq, it seems that the CBI is methodically moving in the right direction. For those of you calling in for the first time, I apologize that we're not having a full call. That was my intention for today. The computer is not frozen, but I haven't tried to click anything intentionally. I would strongly suggest you go to our call of May 25th. It's a full call. It explains our program in depth for those that are in fact holding currencies and why they need to establish their trust prior to the revaluation of these currencies. I still want to give you our contact information. You can go to our website, which is trusts with an S, unlimitedllc.com. Our email address is trusts with an S, unlimitedllc@gmail.com. And our phone service is 307-274-4122. If you contact us, we'll be happy to send you our initial no-obligation package. It does contain everything you need if you wish to proceed with the establishment of your family asset protection trust package, but you're under absolutely no obligation to do so. The package has a lot of information about us, about the currencies, about trusts and revaluations. You can review the package, contact us if you have any questions. We'll be happy to assist you. There will be no consultation fee. If you decide to proceed, once again, everything you need is in the package. Send all the appropriate documents to us. We will begin immediately the preparation of your trust for delivery to you, and then we can take it from there. So thanks again for listening to the call. I think all in all, the information is good. We will be back next week. Certainly, if something of a dramatic nature were to happen between now and then, we will try to schedule or get out an emergency email and schedule an emergency call. My IT guy will be here probably within an hour, and I'll get this computer back up and running, and he can help me with a couple of other issues. I was having some issues with the Q&A on this new format as well. So as I said, I'm not a computer guy, and he'll be able to help me out. But we will be back next Wednesday, noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. Thanks for listening, everyone, and have a great week. Bye-bye.